Here we go. On the road. Pony son. Hard up.
You are listening to Voices from the Diaspora.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leslie Koroma. Welcome to another edition of Voices from the Diaspora. In today's show, we bring you to interviews before our panel discussion, which will be on the ongoing constitutional review process, where our expert panelists examine the much talked about executive powers. In the first interview, I'll be talking to Oscar Castellanos, the diaspora mapping and outreach consultant for the International Organization for Migration, about an initiative to have Sierra Leonean-born health professionals living in the USA and Canada go back home to help with the health sector. Welcome on our show, Mr. Oscar Castellanos.
Thank you very much, Leslie, for having me here with you in your program.
Thank you. First of all, could you tell us about the International Office Organization for Migration? What the organization is about?
Sure. Well, actually, the International Organization for Migration, it is, let me tell you, it is the leading agency that deals with migration issues. It's an intergovernmental organization, counts around 151 member states. IOM helps the state members to make migration a benefit for their development. It is also an organization dedicated to promote humane and orderly migration worldwide. Just to mention, it is very important to say that IOM has 240 country offices in all the world, and it counts also with 471 field locations worldwide, which helps the organization have first-hand knowledge of the countries.
Okay, thank you. That's very informative. Now your particular position at this time is a diaspora mapping and outreach consultant, and you're working on a specific project having to do with Sierra Leone and matching health professionals that are living overseas with Sierra Leone and actually trying to fill the gaps in the needs of the Sierra Leone health sector. Could you tell us about that particular project?
For sure. We can see this project from two different perspectives. The first perspective, which I like to mention to all the health professionals I've been contacting so far, is that this project is planting seeds of collaboration between Sierra Leonean health professionals in the diaspora with their peers in Sierra Leone. The second perspective is also the fact that this project is improving and aims to improve the Sierra Leonean health sector. What we basically are trying to do here is to facilitate the transfer of skills from the diaspora to their peers through short-term stays in Sierra Leone health facilities, through workshops, training sessions, conferences, and teleconferences. Usually, the participants, these health professional participants, go to Sierra Leone for about 3 to 4 weeks. Some of them, they stay for 1 to 2 months. The frequency of the travels depends on the availability of the health professional. It is worth mentioning that IOM, the way that facilitates this transfer of skills, IOM pays for their expenses during their stay in Sierra Leone, and what also makes possible to come with logistical and financial support. For example, IOM covers expenses on flight tickets. It also helps in insurances, and IOM also assists them during their medical assignments in Sierra Leone. Right now, what I would like to mention about is that we are in the process of identifying where are the health professionals here in the U.S. and Canada. We're trying to assess health professional skills and level of interest to participate in this program by distributing a questionnaire. And this questionnaire is helping us collecting information about them. We're also asking Sierra Leone and community organizations to help us distribute these questionnaires because their support, this is very important, their support is essential for this project to bear fruit.
Okay. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add that later on we're going to start a selection and application processes in which the health professionals we identify right now, we're going to match them with the needs of the health facilities in Sierra Leone. We have an office there, IOM Freetown, which is also involved in helping us assessing the needs of the clinics, the hospitals in Sierra Leone. So once we identify them, we're going to start matching the skills with the needs.
Awesome. Wonderful. You already mentioned the fact that the trip will be financed at various levels. One of the things I would like to ask is the fact that this project, and I know it's the first time this project is being launched in Sierra Leone, is this an ongoing process? This is an ongoing project which will be done year in, year out into the future years?
Sure. This is a project that is called Migration for Development in Africa, MIDA project, and it's been implemented since 2001. There are other African countries that have benefited from these exchanges, for example, Ethiopia, Ghana, the Great Lakes region, and Somalia. And what we basically do, we try to harness the contributions of the diaspora for the development of their home countries, right? So that we can break this vicious cycle of emigration and no growth in the health sector. So basically, what we do is trying to fulfill this gap of the human resources gap that is affecting Sierra Leone health sector.
Okay. And now you've indicated also that you reached out to many Sierra Leonean organizations to help in the process of the generating awareness and also trying to recruit health professionals who are over here in the United States and in Canada to join up on this program. How far is that going, and how successful has your efforts been so far?
Well, right now I'm really thankful for all the support that many Sierra Leone organizations has brought us. They have been instrumental in, for example, in receiving the questionnaires right now. The greatest support they have is spreading the word, right? Because they are the ones who know the community. They are the ones who can reach more. The health professionals, they have relatives. Sometimes they have relatives that are nurses, that are doctors, and that are laboratory technicians, and that they know that probably they might be interested in participate. So the support of the organization is key for this project to develop. So I'm really thankful about their support, and always will be, because this is a project for Sierra Leoneans to Sierra Leoneans.
Wonderful. Also, you mentioned, I'm not sure if you mentioned the duration of the project as far as how long does each health professional is required to be in Sierra Leone when they do go to Sierra Leone to conduct these conferences or workshops, and also work within certain environment for a duration. How long is each health professional expected to be out there?
Okay, it's most of the length of their stays are between 2 to 4 weeks. It will also depend on the availability of the health professional, because they have responsibilities back in the U.S. and Canada. But most of them, they take their vacation time to go to Sierra Leone and have these medical assignments. We can say that, for example, approximately 2 to 4 weeks, and some of them they spend 1 to 2 months.
Okay. This has been very informative. I know there might be some more questions, and we have the information, which is in your press release that you allowed us to publish on our website. So we would ask anybody who's interested further to know about this particular project to contact Mr. Oscar Castellanos. He's based in Washington, D.C., and we have his telephone number listed on the press release. And if at all you do need some more information, you can contact us directly at Voices from the Diaspora through our website by filling out the form in the bottom page of the website. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Oscar Castellanos, this morning for talking to us at Voices from the Diaspora and for such a great initiative in helping Sierra Leone. And I wish you very much, I wish you great success in what you're doing and also great success in the project as well.
Thank you very much, Leslie, for giving me this opportunity to talk with your audience. I just want to remind them that this is a program that is open for health professionals currently working in the U.S. and Canada, and anybody can any specialization applies. So we'll wait for you. I will wait for them to call me and to get the questionnaires, and we'll get in touch and let's get connected.
Wonderful, wonderful. I thank you again, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Have a good day too.
You're welcome.
Think about the generations and to say we want to make it a better place for our children and our children's children, so that they know it's a better world for them, and think if they can make it a better place.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love, and this place is much brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place, you feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there if you care enough for the living. Make a little space, make a better place, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. There's a love that cannot lie. Love is strong, it only cares for joyful giving. If we try, we shall see.
Hello everybody, this is Voices from the Diaspora, your favorite radio program, and I'm Judy Mansuri from London. And I shall be your presenter for tonight's show, in which we talk about the Brazilian Constitution. Specifically, we'll be talking about the constitutional review, which is in process, and we're going to focus the show on executive powers. Before we start, I shall have a short interview with Andrew Keili, who's a civil engineer and also a prominent politician in Sierra Leone and a senior member of the opposition party, the Sierra Leone People's Party. Mr. Keili, can you tell us our guest, please?
Yes, good morning. Glad to be with you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say welcome to Voices from the Diaspora once again, and thank you for agreeing to do this interview with us. So our topics for today, we panelists later on shall be talking about the Constitution and specifically executive powers, which means the powers of the president. In your view, do you think we need an amendment to the Constitution, or is leadership all that we need in Sierra Leone?
Well, my view is that the Constitution does not necessarily need to be that detailed to spell out everything that needs to be done. In the light of the fact that the separation of powers has not been working well, I think that whatever we can put into the Constitution to ensure that that aspect of it works well, I think will be in order. I mean, definitely with the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, we know that the powers of the executive are inordinately high. I mean, even if it's not stated so in the Constitution, we know that in practice, the executive can almost get anything done that he wants done. And we have to put measures in place to ensure that true separation of powers takes place. So in that way, I think we can approach it from that point of view.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. There are people who believe that attitudes, not just those aspects that you mentioned, the legislature, the judiciary, but in general, the Constitution gives the president too much power, and this should be limited. Then there are others who believe that it's fine. If leadership is good, then we have nothing to worry about. In Sierra Leone, do you think it is good, or do you think we should be relying on an individual to make the right decisions, or should we let the Constitution be made so that they have to do the right thing?
My view would be that since we are not in mature democracies, we would need to spell certain things out. I think we have the duties of the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, but partly the excesses of the executive are caused by other estimating circumstances. For example, this business about playing up to your own party people or playing up to a particular ethnic group. I think issues like that, although they may be considered peripheral, are very important because you have to think about why the president, why the executive misuses his power just to gain what he wants. I mean, I think if you look in the Constitution, there are enough checks and balances. The judiciary has checks and balances with what it can do and what it can't do. And in terms of who the president can hire or fire, because there are limitations to that. There is even a provision in the Constitution so that Parliament does not necessarily need to go by what the president says. I mean, if the president refuses to sign a bill, Parliament can come back to the two-thirds majority and say, no, we need to pass it. So there are checks and balances in the system, but we have to examine why these checks and balances don't work. And I think there are situating circumstances that make these checks and balances not work, and those that to be looked at as well in relation to the Constitution.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. My next question is the role of the opposition. You are a key person in the opposition, and the opposition clearly has an important role to play in this process. However, there's a view that the opposition is not quite ready to be as effective as it should be. So my question is, has the opposition have a clear agenda of how they're going to contribute to this review, and what outcomes do they expect to have?
No, I'm a little bit disappointed in us as an opposition. We did appoint those of our members who should be on the Constitutional Review Committee, and the erudite members. But I can't recall the party itself taking a position or having internal discussions as to what exactly we would want to do in this constitution, and for our representatives to be guided by that. We are too concerned in the SLPP with internecine warfare that we have. And although we sent some good people down there on the committee, and I'm sure they represent us well, I don't really know what our views are as an SLPP opposition as to what exactly we want change in the Constitution. We have not done any concerted internal debate, and I think that is a bit disappointing.
Thank you for that. Do you think it's too late for the SLPP as an opposition to turn that around, because the constitutional review is an ongoing process? Do you think there is still an opportunity for the SLPP to get its act together and actually make meaningful contribution to the process by having a clear agenda and knowing what outcomes they would like to have?
No, I don't think it's at all. The review process itself would last for 2 years, and the consultative process is going to be extensive. So I still think that we have a chance of reversing that situation. However, it would very much depend upon how infighting plays out. If we were to put it to problems and sit down, run the table and discuss things, I'm quite sure we can reverse that situation. It would very much depend upon the various warring factions within the party, how much seriousness they'll put into the unification of the party. But I think it certainly can be done. Having said that, when we were writing the SLPP manifesto for the last election, we did refer to this area of the excessive powers of the executive and the need to have more checks and balances. And we did refer some suggestions on what we'd like to see in the judiciary and the legislature. And I think that if people are guided by that, it would be at least some way forward. But we really need to think more deeply about estimating circumstances and see how this can work out in order to be able to sort out this problem. I mean, quite a many checks and balances in the system. There are issues also of decentralization, issues of empowerment of women. I mean, so many big issues that need to be handled in the Constitution. And I would have preferred us having our own constructed view, sit down the table, around the table, and decide on what exactly the SLPP wants. But it's not too late. I think we can still do it.
Thank you. That brings me neatly to my next question, which is, in terms of constitutional review, in a lot of discussions about leadership think that it's not just the reviews of the country's constitution that is needed, but there's also a need for political parties also to review their constitutions, because only then can we really have true democracy if there is governance, not just at government, at the level of government, but also within parties themselves. Do you think the SLPP should have a review of their own constitution?
Well, the bottom line is, at the end, with any constitution, a constitution is man-made. If the people who write the constitution or who the constitution is written for decide to cast it aside and carry out things according to their own rules, whatever revision may make the constitution is not going to work. I mean, the SLPP constitution is not perfect, but at least it lays down some ground rules. It talks about equity, it talks about procedures for doing various things. You can't have everything stated in the constitution. It should be accompanied by laws in the case of the SLPP constitution, probably regulations in terms of how the party runs. And I think that some of those are fairly well laid out. But I think there is a big group within the party, a significant group within the party, I think we should lay everything aside and carry up to individuals. And I think that the moment you try to fashion a party or a constitution around individuals, and you try to lay aside and rules because you think casting them aside would favor the candidate of your choice, you will get messed up. I think for one, and I have to be very honest about this, the SLPP has been messed up by this whole leadership issue of the flag bearer. And I think at this stage there are so many things wrong in our party that we should be addressing those issues. And I think there have been so many things that have gone wrong that cannot necessarily be addressed in the Constitution. They can be addressed by people behaving responsibly, keeping to the tenets of whatever Constitution is in place, and looking out for the unity of the party and keeping to the original ethos of the party. To me, that is a lot more important than the Constitution. I don't think our problem is necessarily the Constitution. You may want to tweak a few things here and there, but our major problem is the bigotry that we have.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And especially for you giving us such a frank and honest opinion. And my final question would be, what do you think the role of the diaspora should be with regard to the ongoing constitutional review? How would you like to see the diaspora participating in this aspect?
Well, I've always felt that the diaspora is so important in Sierra Leone. I mean, your remittances you make, the fact that you help out with a lot of Sierra Leonean causes. A lot of you there have issues that you're very passionate about in the country. There are also issues that may even affect you people in the diaspora, like voting rights and issues like that. I think that quite apart from issues affecting you directly, which are many, there are issues, national issues, which you should be concerned about, because really a lot of you are supporting your relatives here, and a lot of you are keeping okay with what is happening here in the country. I think you ought to be given a yeoman's role in terms of determining what direction we're heading as a country. I could see you, they have facilities for people giving in their independent views to the committee and having it taken on board. But I think what would be most effective is to work through groups, larger groups that will articulate the problem and make their voices heard. There are already people talking about various aspects of the Constitution over the radio, over the media. And also it's been quite interesting. You have David Jones talking about this issue of dissipating power and keeping very little power at the center. And I think that issues like that, even if you think that it may not be as workable as it's been put down, at least they bring to mind what we ought to be doing. That this country probably is too centralized and we need meaningful decentralization. There are also issues like women's issues in which a lot of you have a lot of experience on what happens in other countries like Tanzania and Kenya. You could suggest for those issues of how you get greater women representation in Parliament. I mean, there are a whole lot of issues in which you are more enlightened and you could contribute significantly. And I think you ought to play a significant role in the constitutional process.
Thank you very much. Well, that's the end of the interview today. And as usual, you've been a delight to interview. And you're always very kind to Voices from the Diaspora, so thank you very much for that. And you can bye to our listeners, and we shall go on to the next part of our show.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. Well, listeners, that was Andrew Keili, civil engineer and member of the Sierra Leone People's Party, giving his views on what he thinks of the executive party current constitution, and also telling telling us how his party could be better in opposition. Thank you very much, and we'll now take a short break, and we'll be back for the panel discussion, which I promise you would be really exciting.
So much love, so much.
So tell me, can you feel it?
So much, yeah.
You know we got to make that easy.
So much love, so much.
Sierra Leone, can you feel it?
So much, yeah. So much love to share.
Your blackness, oneness, so rare.
So much love to care.
Tell them that they're missing out, Mama Sierra Leone.
So much love to share.
Sweet blackness, oneness, be eating.
So much love to care.
Tell them that they're missing out. Sing again.
Yes.
All on the land that gave back to me. As long as I live, I never will forget. The streets I live and played every day. Oh, repatriation one day, Jah know is a must. In a small town, I was born and raised. Every day I praise Jah to be alive.
Still you don't know.
Land is so gold and green. Beaches are so fresh and clean. Every morning I got to go swimming. The thought of it just keeps me smiling. Beaches are so cool and nice. Visit once, guaranteed to visit twice. And if you just believe in the Most High, I know you'll be alright, Mama Sierra Leone.
So much love to share.
Your blackness, oneness, so rare.
So much love to care.
Tell them that they're missing out, Mama Sierra Leone.
So much love to share.
Sweet blackness, oneness, be eaten.
Hello, everybody. This is your radio program once again, Voices from the Diaspora, and it's Kadi Mansare back again after a short break. Tonight we'll be talking about the Constitution, the Sierra Leone Constitution, and how we want to reform it. Our topic for tonight, reforming the Constitution, will be discussed by three panelists who I have here tonight. They are Josephine Coker, Aliyu Iskandri, and Adrian Fisher. These three panelists will be talking about the executive powers. They all have legal backgrounds, and they know about the Constitution. They're familiar with the Constitution, and I call them my experts. We'll start shortly, and the panel will talk about the executive powers as they are stated in our Constitution of Sierra Leone. Firstly, we have here tonight Josephine and Aliyu Iskandri, and Mr. Adrian Fisher will be joining us later. Josephine and Aliyu, can you say hello to our listeners, please?
Good evening. Hello there. This is Aliyu Iskandri in California.
Good evening to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora and at home.
Thank you very much. So that's two of our legal experts, and we shall crack on then. Now, the discussion tonight is going to focus specifically on the powers of the president as written in our Constitution. There are various schools of thought, and one is that the president has too much power and ultimately influences major decisions and appointments. For example, appointments of the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, and Solicitor General are all made by the president. Another school of thought is that the Constitution is a good document and does not need any changing at all. And some people argue that what we really need in Sierra Leone is good leadership,
So leave the Constitution alone. What we need is good leadership, a good president, and everything would be fine. So, with that background, I go to my, I'm going to start with ladies first. Our first segment is, do we need an amendment?
Thank you.
Or is good leadership sufficient? Josephine, what do you have to say on that?
Well, personally, having perused the Constitution, I would say I go for the former school of thought that you referred to. That is, I think too much power is vested in the president, and there is not enough accountability built into the Constitution. I mean, I've gone through various parts, and a lot of what we're looking for has to be embodied in the man himself. But there are no checks in place to ensure that whoever is chosen as the leader of particularly the two strong parties, the APC and the SLPP, fits the bill and have what it takes for us to vest that amount of power in one person. And where there are checks and balances, where there are seeming checks and balances, that would be undermined by party politics, because the state does not have a say in how parties nominate their leaders or their what they call their flag bearers. And once you have a party winning an election, then the flag bearer becomes president without any checks in place. And then we vest all these powers in this person. And then we basically just say to them, it's up to you. You take an oath. An oath does not change the character of a person, whatever that character is, good or bad. And the rest of the 5-year term is up to them. Whatever they say goes. I mean, come on, that does not operate in any successful organization. And if we want to benchmark ourselves, even against some other African countries, that just does not run.
Thank you. Fantastic. Ali, what do you say with regards to that? Do you agree with Josephine, or what are your thoughts?
I hold the contrary view. I believe that the executive power as it is should be expanded a little bit more. What you have to understand is our environment. We come from an environment where we are pretty much a very lawless environment unless we have a strong leader. If we have a strong leadership like Shaka Stevens was, there is room for some tyranny like Shaka Stevens was alleged to have been. But then it goes without saying that he was a very strong leader. I have looked through Part 2 and Part 3 of the Constitution. Part 2, beginning with Section 53 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, talks about the exercise of the executive authority in Sierra Leone. Then what I did was I compared it with constitutions all over the world. And I don't see much difference in the president appointing, not the vice president, who is usually his running mate, but in the president appointing his cabinet and ministers in his cabinet. I don't see nothing wrong with the president appointing deputy ministers or filling ministerial positions. I don't see nothing wrong with the president appointing heads of different ministries. Although, with regards to the heads of different ministries, one could say that could be limited to the extent that the president should defer to the Civil Service Commission for the appointment of heads of ministries. Now, what I have a problem with, is the appointment of the same person to serve as the Attorney General and as the Minister of Justice. This appointment technically violates the Constitution's separation of powers, which clearly states that there shall be an executive, there shall be a judiciary, and there shall be a legislative body. We have a legislative body. But in the appointment of the judiciary, the Minister of Justice, who is a member of cabinet, is the same person as the Attorney General, who actually should be the professional head of the Ministry of Justice, not the Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice doesn't need to be a lawyer, but the Attorney General needs to be a lawyer. Then also, I have some problems with the establishment of the appointment, the president's power to appoint the, I think it's the director of prosecution. Now, it is my position that the director of prosecution is not a political position, and that it is only the president that the president must only appoint people to political positions, not necessarily professional positions, which is why I object to the same person being the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General, and which is why I object to the president being the one of the arbiters of who the director of prosecution would be, because that in itself creates a serious conflict of interest. Because what happens when the director of prosecution has to prosecute a matter that the president has an interest in? He would in fact be prosecuting someone that that prosecution would by itself be in conflict with the person that appointed him to that office. And the director of prosecution and the Attorney General should be free to do their job as lawyers without any political hindrance. In fact, with regards to any of the appointments that the president can make under this Part 2, Section 53 et sec, it is only these two that I am definitely opposed to. Now, it is my belief that it is the president's, it should be within the president's power to appoint ambassadors, should be within the president's power to appoint other people to other offices that are political offices, but not professional offices. Now, let's address the issue raised by my colleague with regards to the safeguards within the Constitution. The Constitution itself may not have those safeguards clearly written on it, and she is right. They should be. But then if those safeguards are not clearly written in the Constitution, then case law and stare decisis should create those safeguards. Our regulations should create those safeguards. And I think these are things that we need to put into place with regards to the executive powers of the president. When I should stop speaking, please, I made some notes here about the certain issues. For example, I note that with regards to the appointment of the Attorney General, it should be a position that should be actually be voted for, that of the Attorney General.
By who?
By the people. Okay. By the people. The people should vote who the Attorney General would be. The President should appoint the Minister of Justice, but the people should vote who the Attorney General should be. That way, there is absolutely no conflict of interest between the Office of the Attorney General, which is responsible for prosecution of crimes and for against the state, and the Office of the President, which is a political office. And that would create a clear separation between the two offices. a clear separation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Aliyu. Thank you for that. So we've got two diverse views here. Josephine believes that he does have too much powers, and Aliyu believes that he doesn't, and in fact, he should have more. And you've both given your reasons. Aliyu, you have spoken about where you think it's adequate, but you haven't specifically told us where you think it should be expanded. What more would you give to the president? Because as it is, he has a lot already. And we'll come back to the positions of the Attorney General that you've spoken of. But what more would you give to the president than he already has?
Well, nothing more. You see, the issue of the president's powers being expanded is an issue that has to go with what the issues that we have. I don't see anything else that we could provide in the Constitution to expand his powers. But I don't see a reason why we should curtail the powers that he has to appoint people to certain positions. For example, like I said before, the president's power to appoint people to political positions should be unfettered.
Okay. So you would only recommend that he should have the powers, but then certain appointments like the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, they should not be the same person. And you've raised some very good points, which it brings us back to the question of leadership. And you also mentioned tyranny. There's always a risk that one person having so much power, especially to make so many appointments, can lead to tyranny and too much control. And if that person is not a good leader, we can end up with a dictatorship. That is one argument. Another argument is that why not get the why not get the Constitution to ensure that, then leave it all to the president?
Why not get the Constitution to ensure what?
Why not get the Constitution to ensure that the president does these things instead of leaving it entirely up to him? So if you could just briefly answer that, then we can...
Well, the question is not clear. That's what I'm trying to get.
Okay,
Why not leave the president to the Constitution to do what?
I think the Kadi is trying to say we should have the inbuilt checks and balances built into the Constitution, which is what my stance would be.
I agree.
I mean, the presidential powers are not limited to appointments. It's not as if the president makes appointments and then he does nothing else for 5 years apart from cabinet reshuffles. The president, if we view the Constitution, the president has a lot of powers vested in his person. Read the point about the separation of powers and having the Minister of Justice and Attorney General being political appointments and being vested in one person. I agree with you totally on that point. The UK had the same problem, and actually the post was divided up subsequently so that division of powers, separation of powers could be effected in these appointments, because obviously otherwise you have a conflict of interest.
Okay. Thank you, Josephine. Sorry to cut you off, but we need to take just a short break now. We'll continue shortly. Thank you.
Why are we the blow?
listeners, we're back again after a very short break, and we still have our panelists here, Josephine and Aliyu Iskandri. Josephine, shortly before the break, you were making a point. Can you continue for our listeners?
Yes, I was saying I agree with him about the division of, or the separation of powers regarding the legal personnel, the head of the legal system, the head of the judiciary, the Minister of Justice, which is a political appointment, and that the President should not necessarily have a hand in making professional appointments in the person of the Director of Public Prosecutions. I agree with all that. But as far as bringing precedents to account regarding their behavior in office, first of all, the Constitution gives wide-ranging coverage for presidential immunity, notwithstanding, and that could probably be the reason why we don't have case law. So even after presidents have left office, they cannot be taken to court for supposed abuses of power while they're in office. And to be honest, Sierra Leone as we know it today, I do not see us having case law develop in that area, even if there was no presidential immunity. We are a sovereign state. We are indeed a republic. I do not see, except if there are crimes against humanity, I do not see how we can bring precedents to account, apart from embedding that in the Constitution itself. The people who were saying should vote for the office of Attorney General, while that may be a laudable recommendation, they're not savvy enough. They're not savvy enough to vote for the politicians. How are they going to vote for a legal expert? The education in Sierra Leone, exposure in Sierra Leone leaves a lot to be desired. So while that is laudable, at the moment, in present-day Sierra Leone, that is not a practicality, I'm afraid. I mean, I stand to be corrected, but those are my views.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sure our listeners have gained a wealth of knowledge from you guys, listening to you and having the two points of view and the two schools of thought. Now, I would like, given that both of you have different views on...
Before you address the other issue, I would like to address that.
All right, quickly.
Most presidents have immunity. The key to having presidential immunity is that the president shall be immune for any decisions that he takes while in office, which decisions were necessary for him to accomplish the goals of his office. Now, of course, if the president goes and takes members of an opposing tribe and murders 30% of them, we're talking about something different. That is outside of the scope of his duties. But the president has immunity. And let's talk about the development of case law. Just because we haven't had it yet does not mean that we should not aspire to it. For people like me who have lived in the United States for a tremendous amount of time, and who also have experienced the blessing of practicing law in this jurisdiction, I understand the importance of holding people accountable for their actions. But if we were to have laws that hold the president accountable for any actions that we do not agree with generally, then what would happen would be chaos, because no one would want to leave power, because they know that if they leave power and the other person comes, particularly after a contentious elections, they are bound to be taken to court. So we need to leave that presidential immunity there. The presidential immunity has limitations. It has serious limitations. And I think we must consider that.
Like I said, my learned friend, there are limitations. The limitations that we have at the moment are the limitations that you would expect any sovereign state to have within the context of international legislation. Like I said, giving you an example, supported what I said in the sense that if there are crimes against humanity, history has taught us that such crimes do not necessarily go unpunished. With regards to the development of case law, I laud your aspirations, but at the moment, Sierra Leone cannot handle that. We don't have it. We may love to have it, but it is just not there. So at the moment, what we need to do is to put some checks and balances within the Constitution so that we have more accountability. I mean, I have highlighted quite a bit of this Constitution, and some of and I have also drawn comparisons with other jurisdictions, both in the West and in Africa. And I must say, our Constitution, as it stands, gives a lot of powers. And some of it may look like it's not much, but the implementation of that difference can have tremendous impact.
Okay, so you've said this generally. Let me ask you the same question that Kadi has asked before of me. Tell me, what is it in the Constitution that you consider to be too much powers for the President of Sierra Leone?
What is it in the Constitution that I consider to be too much power?
Okay, just hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, guys. Thank you. And that question that Aliu asked just neatly leads to our the second segment question, which means which aspects of power would we specifically limit? And I'd like you to answer that, as Aliu has also asked it. But I'd also like you to, Aliu, to think of what are the advantages of giving the president a free rein, if you like. So, Josephine, continue answering that question, please.
Okay, I shall answer the question, but I think personally what I would like to say is there are policy decisions made every day in Parliament, and we should ensure that in public service, not just in Parliament, all over the world, and those policy decisions are made for the greater good rather than for individual interests. So that has to be accepted. It is a fact of life. However, there should be more. I think the question, the way I would have put the question is, how much more accountability would you like to see? I mean, first of all, the person of precedent that we appoint in Sierra Leone. Sorry, I'm just going through my notes here because I have highlighted bits of the Constitution. For example, the president shall be the fountain of honor and justice and the symbol of national unity and sovereignty. That is laudable on the face of it, but that does not account for party politics. So probably, I think that goes a stretch too far. He shall be the fountain of honor and justice. Indeed, national unity and sovereignty, I think this is the first parliament in my lifetime that I would say is actually taking steps towards national unity. Whatever we may think of that, it is the best one we have had so far. You referred to Shaka Stevens. We all know that the stories abound. So that is a part of the Constitution that will need more careful consideration and a bit of reworking. And if you cross-reference that with Section 42, a presidential candidate shall be nominated by a political party. There is an example of two juxtaposing views, and we're saying that we're talking about the same person.
So how would you change
most of the serious decisions are carried by a 50% vote, not even 51%. In Ghana, you have 51%. And considering that the president is the head of the ruling party who will have more of the seats, what do you expect? I'm just picking and choosing as we go. Section 51. if notice is given to the Speaker, i.e. of impropriety in office by the President, 1/2 of the members of Parliament should sign the motion. Where are you going to get that 1/2 from? The ruling party has more than 1/2 of the sitting members in Parliament. And then you need 2/3 of the members to carry the motion. It is impossible. So there is no accountability built in whatsoever. That is the issue I have. Giving the President a free rein so that he can effectively do his job is different from if we're unfortunate enough to have someone that we need to call to I do not want to use the expression call to order because of my respect for the office of the President, but if we need someone that Parliament or a faction of Parliament needs to ask certain questions about his activities in office, considering how weak the opposition is at the moment and how weak it usually is, there's no effective check in place.
Okay, thank you.
There definitely is no effective check in place.
Okay, thank you. So your argument is for checks and balances, and that the president
will be built in, because at the moment, we're asking members of his party to vote against him. Look at the UK Parliament, where democracy is more developed. All you need to do is have a ring round and threaten and try and get a few more people on side, and a lot of the votes go through, even though we all know people just abstain so that the votes can go through, even though you can make assumptions that but for pressure, duress, some of these votes may not have gone through.
Okay, thank you.
So how much more underdeveloped democracy
I have to stop you, I'm afraid, because we're running out of time.
That's fine.
So your main concern is that the President should also be subject to checks and balances, and we should put these checks and balances in place and not just rely on his leadership. Okay.
Yeah.
And Aliyu, what are the advantages do you see, or disadvantages do you see to limiting the President's power?
I have no problems with limiting the power of the President, but any such limits must be constructive given our political environment.
Okay.
Now, Josephine talks about the difficulty of getting people to oppose the President because his party is the majority in Parliament. Well, Josephine, you have to understand one thing. That's called democracy. If the other party wants to have that degree of limitation, then they vote their own members in. That's democracy. If we all vote for APC, then it is what APC wants that goes, regardless. Maybe you should read a book by Lani Guinier called The Tyranny of the Majority. There is such a thing as the tyranny of a majority, and I understand where you're coming from, but that's democracy.
I agree with you, Aliyu. But the problem I'm highlighting here is that even the supposed checks and balances in the Constitution as it stands at the moment cannot be implemented. It is almost impossible to see the implementation of those coming to fruition. That is the point I'm making. I have no problem with there should be a more considered approach to building.
Josephine, hold on a second. We have to stop the segment now, but we'll just take a short break and we'll continue again. Thank you. We're going into a short break now.
Yeah. Growing up hard in the ghetto, suffering where the hustle is so strong. Where streets is always deep, most beats never roll on. Raised in the gutter, start up police, treat my people are so wrong. All we got in life is this. Most of my people are it's a hard road to live this life as a rebel, heading for destruction, the plight of the devil. Most brothers try, but not the height of my level. Nope.
They can't walk in my shoes or feel the pain I felt. Blue collar brother went through, I had to see if I became myself. No more games, time to claim my wealth. From the damn streets, by any means, make your hands meet. Yeah, tossing and turning, can't sleep. From this baby mama drama, stressing, bad luck, maybe out of karma. Wishing I had a Britney or maybe a Madonna. Don't be surprised for why we so deadly. Open your hearts, cause brothers die before 20. Damn. I keep a wild, stay fly with no envy. Smile in my face, so surprised with no pen. Yeah. Growing up hard in the day. So strong, but the streets is always deep. Most beats never roll always in the gutter sky. Yeah. On this street, my people are so wrong. Like this, most my people are all gone. Where the struggle is real, hustle is still. All we gotta do is hold on. Hey. All we gotta do is hold on. Pain and suffering is what we go through daily. Buy some liquor for them people up in Haiti. What will you do when the earth becomes shaky? Damn. Wasn't born a killer, so my nigga, please don't make me. Hey, just the same criteria. Full of poverty.
Hello, everybody. We're back again from a short break. And we shall continue where we left off. Our third panelist, unfortunately, has not arrived yet and seems unlikely to do so. So we shall continue with our two panelists, and Josephine will continue where we left off. So, Josephine, over to you.
Yes, Ali, I agree about your point. I agree with the point you're making about democracy. The issue is there's the tyranny of the majority. I agree with that. But that means the so-called checks and balances, or the so-called call for accountability built into the Constitution, can never be implemented. It will never see the light of day. So what I'm saying here is the Constitution, like you rightly said earlier, needs to be considered and the necessary changes tabled and probably tested, a pilot test run to people of nous who can actually, constitutional experts, probably we need to draft in international expertise to help us and to test the Constitution, to see that what we put on paper, which we have to rely on, which will be the bedrock of our democracy, can stand up to the task that we're using it for. That is what I'm saying. I understand that if we voted for APC, then it is what APC says goes. By the same token, we are saying there's accountability built in that APC should vote against. So what we are saying here is the subtotal will be zero. So that's a major gripe I have with the Constitution as it currently stands.
Okay. I want to direct you to Section 51 of the Constitution.
Hold on, I think I have it here. Section
because it's misconduct of the president.
Hold on. That is where that is what I'm referring to.
Okay. Well, it discusses the misconduct of the president.
Yes.
It creates an avenue by which the president can be impeached. That's the check and balance.
No, that's exactly what I'm discussing in Section 51.
Mm-hmm.
The notice given to the Speaker should be signed by not less than 1/2 of the members of Parliament. Exactly the point I made earlier. More than half of the members of Parliament are APC, or whoever the ruling party might be at the time. And even after that process, to bring the process to fruition, they will need not less than 2/3 of the members of Parliament. Come on, are you kidding me? How are you going to get that when the ruling party has the majority of the parliamentary seats?
Okay, well, let me ask you this question.
The 1/2, then it goes to the legislature, to the judiciary. You have the 1/2, it goes to the judiciary, it comes back, and then you're looking at 2/3 again.
Let me ask you this question. Let me address this.
Okay.
Let's assume, for example, that 2/3 of the parliament of Sierra Leone is SLPP.
The president will be SLPP.
Yes. No, but let's assume, for argument's sake, that 2/3 of the parliament of Sierra Leone is SLPP, but the president is an APC president
How can that be?
It can be. It can happen. Presidential elections and parliamentary elections are two different entities. You vote for the president and you vote for parliament. That's possible.
I understand.
So,
okay.
with that assumption...
Adrian, are you there? I heard someone come in.
Yes, hello, good evening. I am here.
Yes, let me finish my thought, please. Hello, Adrian.
Just bear with me.
Hello, Adrian.
Hello, Adrian. Thank you for joining us. We are now in the second segment where we are discussing the advantages and disadvantages of limiting presidential powers and what specifically we think what powers should be limited. And Aliyu and Josephine are discussing on that. So you can join in after Aliyu makes his point. So Aliyu, continue.
Josephine is not addressing the issue. The issue is what powers under Section 53 Exec should be limited. Section 51 that you bring in talks about misconduct of the president. But let me go back to my example that I was giving. As contentious as the last election was, where there was a group of people who voted for BO, what if the parliament was 2/3 SLPP? And they decide that they don't want the president of Sierra Leone. And they could just vote and have the president be impeached. Do you understand that that would create a chaotic situation? That means that the president of Sierra Leone would be president of Sierra Leone not because he was voted in, but because he has a clique that keeps him in or keeps him out. Now that's democracy. That is what democracy is. If you recall the issue with Bill Clinton, let me finish this thought. The reason why Bill Clinton wasn't impeached was because he had a majority of Democrats in the House. That's why he was not impeached.
What the point I'm making, following on from the first segment, is even Section 51 is clutching at straws. That's what I'm saying, which is why I said the Constitution needs a careful rethinking and reworking. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, thank you. Can we give Adrian, who has just come in, a chance to speak? So, Adrian, given what you've just listened and what the brief that you've been given, we're talking about the presidential powers, the pros and cons of limiting them or not limiting them. What are your views, very quickly?
Right. Thank you very much, Kadi, for adding me on. I do apologize for being a bit late to traffic problems. My view of the limiting of the Constitution has been quite clear that, leaving aside all other issues, my main concern about the presidential power, particularly insofar as Sierra Leone is concerned, is insofar as the question of appointments of the president is concerned. In other words, appointment to public office. The problem we have currently in Sierra Leone is that virtually all public appointments are made by the president. And I pose a simple question. Is the president Superman that he is in a position to be aware of the best possible individuals that should be appointed to man the affairs of the public service of Sierra Leone? In other words, is the president in such a position where he is able to look around the country and say, right, all of those people that I can identify at the stroke of a breath are the best people to be appointed to such positions? Now, I know the argument to that is, well, yes, the president only appoints, but then it's a question for Parliament to determine who is approved at the nomination stages in Parliament or the appointment stages in Parliament. But in my view, that is no substitute. I think what Sierra Leone needs, as far as the Constitution is concerned, is to have an independent public appointments commission that will deal with the question of appointment and take that out of the hands of the president. Because let us face it, majority of the problems we have had, looking at the appointments that have been made by the president, and I'm talking about not just this president, even previous presidents. Some of those appointed to serve in public offices have been a failure. And the question to ask is it the fault of Parliament that they approve these people, or is it the president's fault that he was the one who nominated these individuals to serve in public offices? So these are two issues.
Anyone appointed could have been a failure, whether they're appointed by the president, by a commission of the president, or whether they're appointed in the manner you're saying.
Counsel, with all due respect, sir, I gave you an opportunity to finish what you were saying.
And I apologize.
You allow me to finish. Thank you very much. Now, my issue is, yes, to take your point, although I would not want to do it, but I will take your point. The question is, when you have a robust public appointment system, in other words, from the question of nomination, i.e. jobs being advertised, to the point of an independent review process, i.e. through the question of interviews, etc., and then on to Parliament, you have a far stronger system than a president simply just saying, right, I would nominate Mr. Joe Bloggs to serve in this capacity as chairman of this board of this particular department. Because we know fully well what goes on in Parliament, that it's on a very rare occasion, and I'm talking about since the SLPP time, and even in this government, that somebody has gone to Parliament and has been rejected by Parliament. The reality of the situation is we all know how the appointment committee works in Parliament. People simply go in there, they are interviewed in private, and then the nomination committee comes back out and says, right, we are going to recommend this man. Now, what I'm talking about is a different kind of system where we can have jobs being advertised. We're looking for the board chairman of XYZ. People can put in their applications. The commission would then go into the individuals that have applied, shortlist a number of candidates, put them through a rigorous assessment process before they end up going to Parliament. But it's a far cry from the president simply just nominating at his pleasure somebody to serve in the capacity as a board chairman without any kind of proper knowledge as to the capabilities of this individual. I mean, we just need to go back and look at those who are serving currently in boards in Sierra Leone. Let's look at the qualifications and see whether these people are capable of manning the boards that they are in. You know, so it's not a simple issue of saying, well, anybody can be a failure, but the chances of failure are reduced if we have a robust independent system that would look into who is appointed. And then, most importantly, not so much insofar as the question of appointment is concerned, the question of people being relieved of their duties when they have failed to perform. Now, we have another problem where we have people working in public offices who are clearly not performing, but they cannot be relieved of their duties because they were not appointed by the entity concerned. So they can only be relieved by the president. And we know the role that political patronages play. That when people are appointed by the president, they have this so-called political clout, then it's difficult to get rid of them, you know, even when they fail to perform and carry out the duties that they should be doing. So I think this is a key issue that needs to be looked at. I stop so far for now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adrian. And it's a shame that you are only joining the debate now, and we're kind of wrapping up now. But thank you very much. And I think all of you panelists have given our listeners a lot of food for thought, a lot of things to think about as we review this constitution, as it's being looked at, all the committees. So there's been a lot of information here and a lot of ideas that have been bounced about that people can think about and consider. Now, finally, before we go, this last bit is just a free flow for what do you guys think is the way forward and how the diaspora can help. And you can comment on anything that you have said before that you feel you need to reiterate, or for Adrian, who has missed the first half of the segment, if there's anything you'd like to add, you could do so. You all have 2 minutes each, so I shall start with Josephine again.
Thank you, Kadi. I think, first of all, I need to buttress what Adrian is saying. The only thing I would say is I would go a step back and say, Adrian, I agree, and I think you're actually supporting what Aliu and I have already said before in what you've said. But I will take a step back and say, how do we choose this appointments committee? Who would be in it? Are we going to have puppets? Or we don't want a ventriloquist. We don't want ventriloquist puppets in this committee. We need people who would actually be there to serve the nation, rather than people who may be yes men and just appoint people that would otherwise have been appointed under the old system anyway. So that is one thing we need to look at. Then I think moving on from that, I would like to buttress my points to say the Constitution is there for everyone to read. One of the problems we have in Sierra Leone is that people are not aware of the powers we are vesting in the people we vote for. If people were half as aware, they probably would be more careful about the people they vote for. It is not a case of singing and dancing and being given a bag of rice and something to drink during campaign time. And after that, most of them are not even remembered. And then they vest the powers of running the nation in these people. And at the end of the day, they still want to complain when things are not going as they expect. We've had too many unfulfilled promises from politicians across the board. We do need education. We need political education, and probably we need to start that in our schools. It is not enough to teach us about Mamioko, Baibure, and our history. All that is good. On top of that, we should understand our Constitution. We should understand our civic duties. And I think the diaspora, with the experience we have had by living abroad, some of us for too long than we care to remember, should be utilized by us helping in whatever way we can to ensure that civic education is of paramount, is a priority in our country, and that with the fruits of that will be seen in Sierra Leone in years to come.
Okay, thank you very much, Josephine. And Aliu?
Yes. It's been an interesting conversation. I have listened very carefully to what Adrian has said, and I've listened to what Josephine has said. We are all on the right track, but we are trying to find the most perfect fit. With regards to appointments made by the president, I would agree partially with Adrian that some of those appointments would have to go through some sort of a commission. Fair enough. But like Josephine says, who appoints the members of that commission? Who terminates the membership of those members of that commission? Are those members of that commission subject to elections? If they are, then political patronage that he talked about is at issue. I say this, that looking at the Constitution from as we see it right now, from Part 2, subsection Section 53, all the way to Section 72, what I see is that the powers granted to the president to make certain appointments are not powers that are not granted to many other presidents. The power to appoint not the vice president, but the attorney general, the cabinet members, the head of prosecution. Again, my position is still unchanged. I disagree with the president appointing the director of prosecution. It's a professional position. It should come with some degree of merit. I disagree with the appointment of the Attorney General as the Minister of Justice, because those are two conflicting positions. They violate the Constitution, and I think that's one of the things that should be changed in the Constitution. Having said that, I say no more.
Thank you very much, Aliyu. And finally, Adrian, what would be your closing remarks?
Right. Thank you very much. I mean, there is so much to consider, but I think I should just inform members that I'm currently writing a piece on the case for constitutional review, which I shall publish probably within the next 2 weeks, and most of these issues are addressed in that piece. But suffice to say, I think I should start off with Aliyu's just even concerns about the appointments committee. Now, I've always said that whenever you have a problem, that practical problems require practical solutions. Now, we have a situation in Sierra Leone where there is a problem with political patronage. Now, the appointments committee, to start off with, that appointments committee can be appointed by Parliament. And I say appointed by Parliament in the sense that Sierra Leone is a country that has over 6 million people living within it. We have others that live in the diaspora like yourself, Aliyu and others, and Kadi and all the rest of it. Now, there's nothing wrong with having people making an application. Parliament can simply put out an ad that we need people to apply for membership of the Independent Review Commission. These people can then apply. They can be shortlisted by a commission in Parliament and then be voted upon, not by a 2/3 majority in Parliament, but by up to 80% of the members in Parliament. That ensures that you have the proper balance, because you would have to involve the opposition in as well as involving members of Parliament on the government side. So you are with a number of people who, first of all, are not going to be appointed based upon political patronage, and even if they are, the balance will strike itself out in terms of whatever opposition party is appointing X amount or approving X amount and the government side approving X amount. But effectively, it's a question of numbers. Secondly, you have distinguished civil servants, distinguished individuals who have served in various capacities in Sierra Leone with distinction. These are the sort of people that I'm thinking of should form members of that independent appointments commission. Now, Ali has raised a number of points about disagreeing with the appointment of the Attorney General, etc., etc. I agree with him on those points, but one of my primary concerns is this. Take, for example, the position of the Chief Justice. This person is appointed by the President. How is the judiciary to be independent when the President appoints the head of the judiciary and can send the head of the judiciary on leave or even fire the head of the judiciary? These are some of the issues why I say we cannot have one man appointing everyone. You need an independent person who is there appointing these people based upon representation of the people. So they effectively, you have the appointments being made on behalf of the people. So
okay,
when these people
Adrian,
get into office, they are only there to support the people in power.
I have to come in there, Adrian. Before you arrived, that we had discussed that, and I think Aliyu's solution was that one of those positions should be elected. His proposal was that one of them should be elected rather than appointed by the President, and he agrees on that point. I think the appointments that involve the law and the judiciary seem to be very contentious, and all three of you agree that something needs to be done in that area, because I think that is the area that limits our democracy, that is a cause for concern. So I'll go back to you so you can wrap up, because we are running out of time now.
Right. Thank you very much, Kali. One of the issues, I am not a fan of having election to public offices. When you look at the Sierra Leone dynamics, and I say practical problems require practical solutions, we have a problem with people voting on ethnic lines. We have a problem with people voting on political lines. We have majority of our population, over 60% of whom are illiterate. The issue that we need to have here is people need to be in a position who have the necessary integrity, who would make such appointments on behalf of people who are not that aware of some of the critical issues surrounding appointments to such offices. Now, take, for example, the position of Attorney General. If we were to elect an Attorney General, for example, you have one lawyer from the north who will serve probably 25 years, and then you have another lawyer from the east that will serve probably 24 years. You're going to have a situation where the Attorney General most likely would be appointed from the area which has a lot more in terms of numbers than insofar as the competency of the person is concerned. It may be that the Attorney General from the East or the candidate from the East is much more competent than the one from the North. But because you have more people in the North, they will vote for the one in the North because it's their brother. This is why I feel it is unsafe. It is unsafe to leave it to an election. But let's have independent people with integrity who will critically distinguished ex-judges who have served the judiciary for over a number of years, who will be able to have that critical mind to appoint a competent Attorney General rather than have elections.
Thank you very much.
But I got to address that one quick second. The power to appoint the Attorney General should lie in the President, too.
Well,
I think I
have no problems with that. I agree entirely that that's what I'm saying. We don't need to have elections. The Attorney General is an advisor to government. The President is the head of government. There's nothing in principle wrong with the President appointing the Attorney General. The only issue that I have with that is the fact that the Attorney General does not go to Parliament. And in my view, he should.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, we have to end there now. Thank you. And lady, and Josephine, thank you very much. And again, like I said before, there's been a lot of issues here. Our listeners have heard them. It's giving them food for thought. I'm sure people would be thinking about these and have these in their mind. Voices from the Diaspora intends to run a series of programs on the Constitution, and there'll be opportunities to discuss various aspects. This one has been specifically on the powers of the President and what we can do, and I'm sure that we'll be hearing from you guys in the future about this again. Adrian, we look forward to receiving your article, your paper, and I'm sure it would be circulated again to the wider public. And I'm sure Josephine we'll be hearing from Josephine on various platforms on social media, and likewise for Aliu. So thank you very much, and you are my experts, my Constitution experts. You've done really well. I appreciate your spending this time serving for the country. We really need to have these discussions, and we really need to put this out there to our people. That's what the diaspora is for. This last segment was how can the diaspora help, and this is what we're doing by having this panel discussion, bringing your expertise to sharing it with the people so that they can have an idea of what is out there and what is a world-class standard, what a world-class standard democracy is with a wide experience. Aliu here in America, Adrian and Josephine are here. It's a broad base of knowledge, and you've shared it with our listeners today. So thank you very, very much once again, and I hope to have you on the panel again for future programs in this series, and I hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sierra Leone, they say, me family there, oh, me people them, my yeah, Franco Nero say, Congo San no good, Badat no good, Rich no good. Aye, me people them, oh, Sierra Leone, they say, me family there, oh, me people them, my yeah, Shadi say, Congo San no good, Badat no good. No good.
we self, to we self. We no good to we self. To we self, to we self. We no good to we self. You meet me and me woman, you want for make we party. You meet me and me party, you want for make we scatter. You will not be there, and you want bring separation. And you ain't no concern, that you want barricade. But waiting God on mark, you no go able to weather. Waiting God on gather, you no go able to scatter. Mama, yeah, no hater, not to you making life, eh. Mama, yeah, no hater, not to you making life, oh. Not to you, yana for me, eh. Not to you pick up for me, ah. Mama, yeah, no hater, not to you making life, oh. Not to you keep on for me, eh. Not to you see on for me, ah. Mama, yeah, no hater, not to you making life, oh. Not to you, yana for me, eh. Not to you see on for me, ah. Mama, yeah, no hater, not to you making life, oh. Not to you, yana for me, eh. Not to you see on for me, ah. Mama, yeah, no hater, not to you making life, oh. If you get big waist, that's how you look at later. Papa ain't no hater, that's how you make it life, oh. If you get bold jaw, that's how you look at later. Papa ain't no hater, that's how you make it life, oh. If you tall and slim, that's how you look at later. Papa ain't no hater, that's how you make it life, oh. If you short and bump, that's how you look at later. Papa ain't no hater, that's how you make it life, oh. If you are war, that's how we look at later. Mama ain't no hater, that's how you make it life, oh. If you dey bamboo, that's how we look at later. Mama ain't no hater, that's how you make it life, oh. If you dey smoke jamba,